Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to a post-release analysis on CyNo. So, as usual, we take the pre-release analysis and we go through the things that I predicted right, the things that I got wrong, the things that actually, that's kind of it. The things I got right and the things I got wrong. And we explain any changes, any additional stuff. So, let's get right into it. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to a pre-release analysis on CyNo. So just keep that in mind.
It's not hitting the corner.
Information on this
I think my editor hates you guys.
Effectively, it's not it. His normal attacks are not what you focus on. The charge attack
That was
actually
accurate.
buffed.
All right, 1 right, 0 wrong. Good start.
Just maybe we might see some like meme C6 Bennett plus CyNo vape builds. I don't think they're going to be good at all, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure someone's done it, and I didn't say they were going to be good, so yeah, that's fair.
However, unlike Raiden, this is not considered burst damage, which means that his burst, so far, from what we expect, and from what we know from leakers, does not work with the emblems, but does work with the gladiator. It should also work with Beto, but I mean, look, at this point,
They did not write on him.
From the footage we've seen, it really looks like when you use your E outside of your burst and then you use burst, it actually reduces the E cooldown to 3 seconds.
It sure does.
By 4.5 seconds. However, and this is very important, his E outside of his burst generates 3 particles, and his E inside of his burst generates 1 with a 33% chance to generate 2 instances.
Yeah, so because of that, you always want to do EQ, right? That's what I'm about to say, and that is true. You basically always want to do EQ in his combos.
So his C1 gives him 20% attack speed, basically. Attack speed is kind of shit.
Alright, let's talk about C1. I think I was basically accurate on C1 just basically being bait. I don't have C1 and I haven't tested C1 myself, but from what I've seen from other people who do have C1, if they end up not using TF, they use combos that actually do less damage than the C0 TF combo on C1. And if they do use TF, they don't gain that much because a lot of your damage is from your E and you don't actually get to use that many more attacks. You do get to use more attacks, so you're effectively basically like gaining a little bit of damage. You are, but it's not like a significant amount. Oh, and another thing about C1 is because it's attack speed, it makes it so that like your timing windows to cast your E are a little bit easier to hit because you have attack speed, which means that you're doing your attacks a bit faster, which means that if you're not changing your combos, you kind of just end up with like a little bit easier to play. But yeah,
it's a C6. Fuck that. TLDR of Constellations, they're okay.
Fuck
They're not, like,
Constellations. Let's skip all the like individual weapon stuff and go to the overall weapon ranking. Staff of Garla Sands, best in slot, yeah. Jadewing Spear, Homa, Deathmatch, White Tassel being like the general options you want to go for, yeah. Keqing, yeah. Pretty situational, but there is an argument for it. Vortex Vanquisher and Calamity Queller are like, I talked about it in the video that like they can beat White Tassel under some situations, but it's just not really worth it because they're a 5-star weapon and it's just it's like 1% better than White Tassel, so it's just like which is also accurate. Spine, pretty meh, yeah. It does make your combos easier to do, like I said though, because you're getting the attack speed, but yeah, it's not insane. Engulfing Lightning, meh. Missive Wind Spear, okay. 5, Dragon's Bane, yeah. I think for the weapon ranking, I still stand by all of this for sure. So we can move on to the second video.
Let's take a look at his artifact sets now. Now, part of the reason why Gilded Dreams is so far behind in this case is because I'm assuming that you're going to be playing him with Dendro main character, and he gains 100 EM from his burst, and you kind of want to go EM Sands over attack sense. And that means that you already have 407 EM in this case. So the 180 elemental mastery you gain from Gilded Dreams, assuming you have a second electro character, which you generally will, doesn't actually give you like a massive significant amount.
Yeah, Gilded Dreams fucking sucks. TF is his best artifact set, alright? And it's by a pretty significant margin because before looking at the energy differences, the TF combo just has so much more motion value that once you factor in the total stats, even before energy recharge, the TF set is like almost 10% ahead. And then you can also factor in the fact that because you're getting more E, you're generating more energy, you need less energy recharge, which means you can afford to spend your stats into other stats. You can get more crit, more attack, more EM instead of that energy recharge, which makes that 10% go up depending on how much exactly you're saving. It can go up by like another 2 or another 10. And that's quite fucking good, actually. Now, the thing is,
because the TF combos are different, and because the TF combos rely on making sure you don't get staggered, because you need to use your E off cooldown and you need to proc your TF in the right order, TF combos are more susceptible to getting staggered, right? And I know I'll talk about this, but I don't know if like the order in which I talk about it here is gonna line up with how I want to talk about Gilded Dreams. So I basically have to say it now. But yeah, so with the TF combo, you are more susceptible to getting staggered, getting hit, getting, like, I don't know, applied with the cryo aura or something. And because of that, even though TF is his best set, I can understand not wanting to go for it. However, if you don't want to go for it, his second best option is not Gilded Dreams. His second best option is going to be Gladiators. Thunder Soother would be a better option if you can maintain 100% uptime on it. Generally, that can be pretty difficult. You can maintain good uptime, and it can be better than Glad, but most people haven't farmed that much Thunder Soother, whereas most people do have quite a lot of Gladiators already farmed. So as a general rule, I would actually say that 4-piece Gladiators is the set you should be going for if you don't want to go TF. His Ascension 1 makes your next E deal more damage every 4-ish seconds. What that means is if you're going for a traditional set and you go for a 3-second E cooldown, you can't use your E every 3 seconds. You have to wait 4 seconds. Otherwise, you're going to miss your Ascension 1. So your E cooldown is actually longer than what it says here. Whereas if you go with Thundering Fury, you can actually pretty reliably get a 2-second cooldown E, in which case you can use 2 in between each Ascension 1 proc. And so okay, the way that it lines up, it is technically possible to do that. However, in my experience, it's been a lot easier to, instead of trying to get 2 E's per Enseer instead of 1 E, it's to alternate. And so the combo that I've been liking a lot is you do 2, 4, 4, 5, 4, 4. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you want to go for another one, you can do another 5. But yeah, so you get 2 E's before your first Enseer. Then your second Enseer, you don't get an E before it. And then for your third Enseer, you get 1 E before it. But effectively, you are getting 3 normal E's and 3 Enseers as like the baseline combo. Now, if you do the non-TF combo, it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dash 1, 2, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dash 1, 2, E. So let's actually write down what the combos are. TF, non-TF. On TF you do N2 E, N4 E, N4 Enseer, N5 Enseer, N4 E, N4 Enseer. On non-TF, you do N3 E, N5 Enseer, N5 N2 Enseer, N5 N2 Enseer. So, number of hits. TF, non-TF. N1, N2, N3, N4, N5, E, Enseer. Now, normal E's without Enseer. 1, 2, 3 on non-TF, on TF, sorry, and 1 on non-TF. And the amount of Enseers is 3 on both. So, let's start by just looking at the motion value stuff. Now we got EM, normal attack scaling, and then we've got EM, bolt scaling. So your bolt scaling is 250% of your EM, and you're getting 9 on both. Your normal attack scaling is 150% of your EM. So how many do you get? Well, 28 on TF, and then on non-TF, 25. So on the non-TF, you actually get more total normal attacks because you're not going all the way to your N5, and your N5 is relatively slow. Does that mean that on non-TF you want to do the same thing and not go to your N5? No, because if you're not filling that time with your E, it's better to get to that N5 because it does have that higher scaling. Anyways, total motion value attack, total motion value EM. And as you can see, we are getting a lot more motion value from our attack. We're also getting a bit more motion value from our EM. That's just the first step though. We got these things that are cool and all, but there's also the aggravates. When you actually look at the aggravates though, on the non-TF combo you get less E's, and the E's don't have ICD, which means it's already harder to get as many aggravates. But then on top of that, the way that the attacks line up mean that with the normal attacks, you're getting about as many with TF as with non-TF. So with TF, you would just end up getting more aggravates because of your E's. Anyways, all this to say, you're getting a lot of motion value on TF, and you're gaining aggravates, and the amount you're gaining is big enough to offset the fact that with TF, you're not gaining as many stats as you are with stuff like Gilded Dreams or Gladiators. And then on top of that, you're gaining more energy recharge. Anyways, point being, TF good. TF is his best artifact set if you don't get cancelled out of your things. And if you miss a Thundering Fury proc, if the enemy dodges one of your attacks, then it's gonna delay your E by 1 second. And that's actually gonna mean that you don't get your Ascension 1 on your E, which is a massive loss in time. Yeah, so, it is. That being said, because the TF combo is so far ahead, even if you fuck it up a little bit, it's still likely to be better, as long as you realize that you fucked up before using your E, and you're like, oh, okay, wait, I fucked up, I'm gonna hold my E instead of using it. But you realize, wait, I went one more attack than I needed to, okay, I'm not gonna use my E, and I'll just lose an E, but I'll still hit my ends here. If that happens, you're still gonna be fine. It is important to understand that it does have a downside. If you can't do the right combo because you got staggered, because the enemies moved, it actually becomes worse than the other options, because it is reliant on getting all of your TF procs. I do think that it's very rare that the best set is going to be something other than TF. I don't think it's as much of an issue as I expected it to be. I've been running him with TF, both with teams that have defensive utility like Zhongli and with teams that don't, and most of the time I end up in situations where TF is still better. But there is still that situation, and if you don't want to have to bother with it, you don't have to go TF. 4-piece Thundering Fury, best in slot. But 4-piece Thunder Soother, good alternative. 4-piece Glad, good alternative. And 4-piece Gilded, good alternative. Yeah, I would basically say you always want to go Glad if you don't go TF. Unless you have his signature weapon, in which case Gilded Dreams can be better because his signature weapon converts EM to attack. Alright, artifact stats. Just like EM good, attack fine, damage percent, crit is basically always going to be crit. Yeah, that's basically accurate. And then I assume later on I talk about how sometimes you'll want to go EM circlet. I don't want to watch the whole thing because it's very long, but yeah. And now finally, when it comes to his teams. And in order to talk about his teams, we unfortunately have to talk about how strong he's going to be. It brings me so much pain to say this, but CyNo's not going to be that strong. And because he's not going to be that strong, then some of his viable teams are going to be teams where you have no reason to play CyNo over other units, but they're just teams that are really good baseline. When it comes to optimally played teams though, what I've looked at hasn't been too great. Not bad, but somewhat underwhelming. Now, I've talked on stream, I've looked at CyNo's damage and I talked about how it compares to Keqing, and I think that's a very important point and serious. We're not going to rewatch all this section, but the conclusion that he's kind of just worse than Keqing overall, I think I do stand by that. A lot easier to play because he's a hyper carry, a lot more straightforward, but if you're playing your Keqing teams properly, CyNo gets outperformed really hard because of the way that his kit functions. We just don't really have the right units that synergize with long field times like him. Beidou actually works very well with long field time, but then what? I mean, you can go for a Dendro main character and you're gonna have good quicken up time, but Dendro main character does not do a lot of damage. Alright, that is true, but we have gotten some information on Nahida. From what we know so far, Nahida applies Dendro slower than Dendro main character, but deals a lot more damage from her base kit because she has EM scaling inside of her base kit, and it's pretty good EM scaling. And then on top of that, she also has a passive that gives her damage and crit based on how much EM she has. And then her EM scalings to begin with are like pretty decent. So she basically does more damage than Traveler with slightly slower application. So it is going to be a buff to aggravate CyNo teams. It's going to be a buff to basically every aggravate team actually. She won't necessarily be better in all Hyperbloom and stuff like that teams because her application is slower. We're going to be doing a Nahida pre-release soon. She's a catalyst, which means that if you on-field her application application is a lot faster, obviously. But relating to CyNo and to CyNo's alternatives, playing Nahida in Aggravate will make the team better, but it would also make a Keqing Aggravate team better. It doesn't change the way that CyNo compares to the other Aggravate teams, but it does make his Aggravate teams a little bit better. The thing is, it's not a massive amount, so yeah. Before Hyperbloom, there's actually a thing that is very relevant here, which is that when you use the general slow Hydro units like Kokomi, you still have Hydro application that is slightly faster than your Dendro main character, which actually means that you still do lose some aggravates. Not too many, but you do lose some. Now, the thing is, there's another unit that can generate 7 seeds, but that applies Hydro once every 3 seconds instead of once every 2 seconds, and that unit is Barbara. I haven't tested the Barbara stuff that much. I do want to test it a little bit more. Wait, I got it? How the fuck did I get it? Oh well. Yeah, like more or less consistent with what I was expecting. But when it comes to just pure Hyperbloom teams, they're gonna be very viable, for sure. But I don't really see the point of playing CyNo over other choices there. I think there might be some value in playing CyNo with double Dendro once Nahida comes out, with Nahida plus Dendro main character in Hyperbloom teams with like CyNo as your last slot. Because then you'd end up with a lot of seeds generated, at which point the fast Electro from an on-field Electro unit could be relevant. Now, because Nahida doesn't apply that much off-field, I don't think it'll be that great, but it should be relatively solid, and it should be a team that is going to be decent. I basically just wanted to add a thing on Overload. Oh, I did it like this, and this, and this, and this. As you can see here, we're getting our Quicken, and once we've gotten our Quicken, if we have Quicken with an underlying Electro aura, like we have here because Razor applies a lot of Electro, when we apply Pyro onto it, it's going to trigger Overloaded and Burning. But then the Burning aura can be used to trigger Overloaded with your Electro character, not just one time. Right, so we got Bennett's Overload that's doing 283, Razor's first Overload that's doing 1437, and Razor's second Overload that's doing 1558. So effectively, we get 2 Overloads on Razor, 2 Aggravates on Razor, and 1 Overload on your Pyro unit. Now, with the right off-field Pyro and off-field Dendro, it would be possible to consistently maintain a bunch of burning on the enemy, but burn away a Quicken aura instead of a Dendro aura so that you can still be triggering Aggravate. Let's actually show how that works out in practice. So, you can see that it's functional. It is working, we are getting aggravates and overloads on CyNo. The only real issue that a team like this has is just that it's not really good. Is it consistently functional? Yes. Is it working properly as intended? Yes. Is it good enough? Not really. Now, obviously, I could use someone else instead of Zhongli. I could be using Beidou, but then Beidou would have some of the ownership, and also it's single target Beidou, which is this. And so this mechanic can potentially just not ever. And then this is just so incredibly. I talk about how on-high-ping Beidou can work. As far as I understand, that is indeed how it works. If you have high enough ping, you can make it work. Now, I don't have CyNo on a high ping account, so I haven't tested it like extensively. But yeah, so this is a mechanic that will be better in on-high ping. But the biggest issue is that you're not building Beidou full EM, so your overload on Beidou doesn't do that much damage, so it doesn't really change that much. Once we get Electro units that are like good off-field Electro units that can work with this and that want to build a lot of EM, then potentially like that could be good. Right now, nah. But it does work with Cookie if you have Cookie, but nah. You still just run into the issue that the team just isn't that good. Like, the interaction is cool, but the team just isn't that good. If you only want CyNo because you think he's gonna be good with a future unit, just wait for that future unit, get that future unit, and then get CyNo on his rerun. Because they could also just release units that don't work with CyNo. But yeah, I think that's it for the CyNo pre-release. As a, like, closing statement, closing thoughts on CyNo, I'm very excited for him. His gameplay looks like it's gonna be very fun for me, and I've been preaching about Thundering Fury for so long. We finally have a new character release that is actually meant to be played with Thundering Fury, so there's no way I'm not going for him. I don't expect him to be particularly strong. He's gonna be pretty okay. Nothing crazy, but nothing terrible either. I wouldn't recommend expecting him to be all that strong on your guys' end either, because I don't want you to pull for him and be disappointed. But as usual, I'll cover him on release. I'll publish a post-release video before the banner is over. So if you still have doubts, feel free to wait for that. Yeah, so this is the post-release. I think that the pre-release was basically accurate. I don't think he's all that great. He's a pretty meh, very skippable unit, but also if you want to go for him, you can make him work. It is gonna be worse than like the 4-star teams you can do. It's gonna be worse than National. It's gonna be worse than Taser. But if you can already 36-star without too much of a problem, and you just want a fun unit and you like the playstyle, yeah, why not? That being said though, Nahida's coming soon. Nahida's looking like she's gonna be pretty good. So if you're pulling for meta only, you want to make sure that you have enough Primo Gems for that. So that's gonna be it for the post-release. Don't spend money on this shit game, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, YouTube. Really? It has to be a joke, right? What the fuck, man? He jumped on the lamp and it made it explode because he was burning! What is this, man?